Dear friends, greetings to you all. My name is Alexei Ognev. I am the CEO of the DigiU ecosystem. Today we have a webinar following the completion of the final snapshots, and we'll be talking about the reorganization and our next steps. What lies ahead for the ecosystem, for our community, our partners, and investors around the world? What global trends are we seeing right now? And where are we headed this year? Overall, let's try to sum up 6 months of active work in 2025. I'd like to remind you that we entered 2025 with some very serious results, with a clear understanding of the foundation we've built, what we're starting from, and where we're going and at what pace. The plans were quite ambitious, completing the reorganization, obtaining a license, growing our products, developing the RWA direction, the anti-pad launchpad, and so on. So now I can confidently say that we're actually moving ahead of our goals for this year. We've now completed the reorganization, given our early community the opportunity to become privileged investors, and built a strong team of specialists who are up to date with current trends, who know how to work with neural networks, and who can create autonomous agents. We've released these agents into the world. They now manage our community, help create content, help communicate our plans effectively, develop strategies, conduct rapid analysis, search for hypotheses, test them, run various simulations, and so on. All of this has made the ecosystem much more efficient in terms of the team, resources, and the products we deliver. The result of all this activity has been the completion of the stage where we finished selling privileged company shares. And overall, much has already been said about this. My main task now is to congratulate all of us, because the legal significance of the company, the legal significance of owning company assets, has grown tremendously thanks to proper legal structuring. This means security for the company, security for intellectual property, security for the assets we've created over the years, and security for our products. Naturally, it's also about the safety of our community's investments, for everyone who has become a co-owner of the company and its products. And most importantly, it's about being able to properly interact with the key, right players in this market. That includes venture funds, business angels, and other professional investors who bring not just money or resources to any product, startup, or ecosystem, but also the right connections, strategic partners, and so on. This is where the great significance of the reorganization we carried out lies. And, in fact, the stages we went through in 2025, April, May, and June, allowed us to take a comprehensive approach to this issue. First, we formed a register of privileged shareholders. Second, we chose a jurisdiction, added various privilege rights, and essentially prepared as fully as possible for the opening of the company, the establishment of the holding structure, the transfer of registries, the transfer of all assets, and the next steps in development. This also includes obtaining various licenses, crypto licenses, banking licenses, and, essentially, operating on a slightly different level. What does a different level mean? It means preparing the company for further rounds of financing. Obviously, we are now in a huge window of opportunity, huge in terms of potential, in terms of making a quantum leap. I mean, for any IT company working with artificial intelligence, doing something in this field, as well as with blockchain. And this window of opportunity, in fact, has very high potential. This is connected to the political changes happening in the world, and to the strategic desire for technological sovereignty in many countries and regions. We'll probably talk more about this a bit later. In general, the window of opportunity is large, and this proper legal protection of the company, assets, property, and the ability to move forward thanks to the right legal structure is an important point that we have almost completed. There are just a few final preparations left. To finalize the register of privileged co-owners, prepare all the necessary documents. What do we plan to do in the last month and a half of summer? To finally submit all the documents and, possibly, even manage to register everything already, at least the first company, and actually build the legal structure for further development. The key and main thing is the BDI jurisdiction, where we plan to register the holding structure, which will consist of the main company and subsidiaries that will be opened as needed for specific products, for additional structures, and so on. All this will be done as needed. Right now, the main thing is to register the parent company. That's what we're getting started on. What else was planned, and what else will be done in July? Obviously, it's the increase of the community's share. Since last year, we've been saying that the reorganization would lead to the community's share increasing to 30%, but not exceeding 30%. The team's share will be 51%, meaning we retain the controlling stake and management of the company in the classic sense of company management. We're keeping this for ourselves because we clearly understand that on this difficult, challenging path, it's necessary to stick to the chosen goal and move toward it no matter what. This approach is what allows us to fulfill the company's mission, where the individual is the main beneficiary and owner of all modern technologies. And those who have been with us for a long time understand that, in the future, this will mean being the owner of your own digital identity, your fully fledged digital avatar, your digital legacy, your digital immortality. For many, this probably no longer sounds like science fiction, but is a real technological solution that is being developed not only by us, but we also know a thing or two about it. So, the increase of the community's share to 29%, and this is specifically the privileged part. It's important to understand that this share will not be diluted. That is, we will no longer sell privileged shares or add new people to this list, and so on. That's why we've approached this issue as fairly and seriously as possible. Because the people who have been with us from day one, from the very first stage of our development, are obviously those who have gone through the toughest moments and riskiest stages with us. And so, increasing the share to 30%, as we stated, it will not exceed 30%. Now we've settled on the figure of 29%. Accordingly, this is a full-fledged reward for the risk you've taken with us from the very beginning to the current stage. That's why we've conducted several snapshots, and from July 14th to 20th, during this period, we'll be making these allocations. Until then, we're resolving all the calculation issues. And not just calculations. Obviously, in the very last days, we've received a large number of support requests. Some people want to keep their installment plans. Others want to do something else to make it in time. We were still getting these questions even yesterday. As always, everyone left everything to the last minute. But here, I'm sorry, I probably can't give you any guarantees. Of course, we'll consider each case individually. If you had some technical difficulties, if there's a valid reason, we'll probably meet you halfway. But if you just weren't following the company, missed some information, which was available, and, for example, your installment plan was canceled, don't expect it to be reinstated. So here, we'll probably take the most individualized approach to everything, but of course, with a sense of reasonableness. So, congratulations to everyone on completing this stage. The next allocations will be from July 14th to 20th. Naturally, we'll try to do everything faster. Why drag it out if we can do it more quickly? So, 50% is the controlling stake for managing the company, guaranteeing movement along the chosen course. 29% is the community's share, and 20% is the reserve fund, which we're keeping for further development and future financing of the ecosystem. But these will no longer be privileged shares. So here, We are absolutely precise and firm in our decision, and this approach has, in fact, allowed us to ensure a sense of fairness. I'm speaking for myself. For the team as a whole, I think you understand me. This has added a sense of fairness to our relationship, to the journey we've been on together for almost 6 years now. Maybe it's worth mentioning again about the Privilege Rights Project. This is the right to vote, to participate in certain matters. I think this year we'll try to hold a few votes, at least to understand what portion of the audience is actually interested in participating in these votes when making certain decisions, because we see that not everyone logs into their personal account. Obviously, there will be a few test runs, so we'll see how it goes. Liquidation preferences, meaning privileged shares have liquidation preferences, and there's anti-dilution protection. That is, we will no longer sell or issue privileged shares. Accordingly, nothing will reduce your share, and that's right and necessary. And accordingly, dividend rights, they can be expressed both in priority for dividend payments and in different proportions of dividend payouts. For example, we can imagine, and I've already mentioned this in general, that at the end of this year, we might pay dividends. And why shouldn't we if we have enough profit? Although, of course, it's interesting to direct it toward further development. But that's still a matter for discussion. Why am I saying this? For example, dividend rights can give us different proportions in dividend payouts. For instance, if we pay them out at the end of 2025, then, say, 90% could go to privileged shares and another 10%, for example, to our new audience that joins us in the second half of 2025. So, there can be various proportional payouts. In any case, privileged shares and everyone who received them. Obviously, this is a fundamental asset. As I once said, it's essentially available only to the chosen few. Since 2019, we've been actively developing and sharing our ideas as much as we can, finding validation, spreading them across different countries, cultures, and so on. And clearly, these ideas are reaching some people. And these people become co-owners of the company, become those who promote and develop the company. And obviously, these are select individuals. That's why this is a fundamental asset that's in safe hands. And I want to congratulate all of you. So, this major stage, you could say, is complete. To everyone who took an active part in it, everyone who followed us, left comments, interacted with DigiU Alpha in the chats. This is very important. I congratulate you all. You've made a clear contribution. We record all of this, we track it, remember it, create certain behavioral patterns, and study them. All of this forms the basis of your digital identity program, the foundation for the development of the DigiU Alpha product, which currently unites what are still somewhat separate products. But this year you'll see how they come together into something unified. And next year, we'll be consolidating this digital identity concept even further. It's actually very interesting. I'll try to touch on it briefly in this webinar. And next week, we'll hold a more in-depth webinar because we have a lot of events coming up. And in that next webinar, we'll talk about them in detail. So be sure to join us. Today, we'll try to briefly go over digital identity and the window of opportunity that's opening up. So what's my personal goal for this meeting? It's to bring a sense of closure in terms of snapshots, in terms of reorganizing rights, allocating shares, increasing the community's share, redistribution, and so on. So we've done a great job here, and I congratulate all of us and all of you. What else? In this meeting, we need to talk about this window of opportunity that's opening up. Obviously, this idea should be in your mind, and you should walk around with it a bit and look around at what's happening, why this window of opportunity has opened, and why we believe we can make a quantum leap within it. And it's worth briefly discussing the concept of digital identity, because clearly everything is coming back to it now. We're not the only ones talking about it. And let's try to look at it from a slightly different angle. So I think I'll wrap up the first part, the closure and the summary of the reorganization. Now, I suggest we move on to digital identity. Let's watch a video that my team and I shot, I think, about 2 years ago. The message was that artificial intelligence will replace you. This is our reflection on that topic, right? And in general, it was kind of a prototype, I guess, that we already had back then, and we chose and developed it further. It was the prototype of the current alpha product. Basically, what it will be like and what it can protect the user, both the person and the co-owner, from. Because the world we're heading into is new and unfamiliar, and I feel that myself. I suggest you really listen to my words now and try to think from this angle, from this point of view. Obviously, the world is changing. LLM models, neural networks, they're becoming a big part of our lives. They're entering at the level of content, at the level of our communication with each other. Even now, I'm speaking in several languages at once, and you understand me perfectly. And I'm speaking to you in my own voice. At the level of communication, at the level of images, at the level of how quickly certain operations are performed and how accurately these actions are carried out. Already, in our company, we've abandoned many processes that we used to pay people quite a lot for. Things like various research, analytics, and so on. All of that is now done very, very quickly. And that's just in our company. Somewhere else, it's done even faster, more efficiently, and so on. And this affects every field. If you use it correctly, you can really speed up. So where do the contradictions arise? Obviously, like most people, you've heard that there are these chats, these neural networks that do everything so well, and that's it, right? But no one is really openly inviting you to learn, to retrain, or really taking care of anyone. That's where this uncertainty comes from. And this uncertainty, obviously, has two directions. The first direction is to lose everything. Because maybe you studied something for 5 years at university, 5 or 10 years ago. You worked for some years in your chosen profession. And now, 2 years ago, these neural networks came along and just burst in powerfully. And suddenly, you're not needed anymore. And that's not a joke. But at the same time, that's the path of fear, losing everything. It's definitely there. And at the same time, this window of opportunity to really speed up is opening, because the system of social mobility in our countries, sometimes it exists, sometimes it doesn't. It's very specific. But if you keep up with technology, and we believe in this, we preach this, then these social elevators turn into wormholes, a chance to make a quantum leap. And now, this choice is probably in front of everyone, and it shows up differently in different regions. Somewhere, it's a chance for a whole country or region, or for a specific person in their profession to make a quantum leap thanks to modern technology. And somewhere else, the question really is how not to lose everything and to keep something. So, based on this message, we made this video a few years ago. Now, let's watch it together. Somewhere you'll see our fantasies on this topic, and somewhere you'll see that some things have actually come true. So let's watch, and then we'll continue.
Sometimes there are events you've been preparing for your entire life. Moments when you are brimming with energy, ready to give your all to achieve your goals. My name is Alexei, and today is one of those moments, because today is my anniversary shoot for DigiU. Hey Valera, where are you guys? We were supposed to shoot today.
Hey Alexei, we've already filmed everything.
What do you mean it's done?
The digital avatar, we used it. The digest is out now. You can check it.
What do you mean released? Hello everyone, this is the digital avatar of Alexei Panatov, and welcome to the anniversary digest of DigiU. Today I'll share the company news. We'll be talking about the RWA projects which have generated $10 billion. And guess what? He can only record videos in one language.
So, are you saying we don't need to pay you a salary anymore? And we can just arrange an annual subscription?
Many people imagine that the future could be like this. Artificial intelligence and other modern technologies will make us irrelevant. are necessary at work, for our friends, and even for our loved ones. And that could indeed happen. But we see a different future.
Hi, how are you? You look great.
Hey, thanks, I'm doing well. How was your day?
Everything's good. I made $2,000 for you, and the amount keeps growing. My stock forecast turned out to be accurate. I've booked your favorite restaurant for 8 p.m. tonight. Sent Nastya an invitation along with a bouquet of flowers. Her reaction shows she's really happy. We need to leave in 20 minutes. You'll make it on time. The taxi will be waiting at the entrance. A few of your friends had birthdays this week. I congratulated them, so don't worry. I know you tend to forget about it. Work-wise, everything is sorted. You're free until Monday. Also a reminder, your vacation starts in 2 weeks. I've booked a hotel for you and Nastya by the seaside. Enjoy your time off.
Great, thanks. And can you tell me what year it is?
December 5th, 2030.
Alright. See you soon then.
So this is quite an interesting video, both in terms of its production and the depth of thought we put into it. I just watched it again, and before this, we watched it together with the audience at the Future Summit, which prominently took place in Novosibirsk at the beginning of June. The guests there also got goosebumps from how accurate some of our predictions were and how specifically they were coming true. Because making predictions is one thing, but seeing how they play out in real life is something else entirely. Much of what we talked about there has already been implemented. For example, autonomous agents, which we use in our company, we really do just pay a subscription for each autonomous agent, and they make it much easier to accomplish various tasks. And there will be more and more of them, and they'll start interacting with each other. There are a lot of ethical, legal, political, and security questions that come up, not just for us, but in general. That's why this global trend of digital identity is so important. And in this video, we talk about its specific impact on people and our approach to it. So now it's obviously worth paying very close attention to this. I mean, both for the company and for every individual in the world, because this is a global trend that's unfolding. Maybe you don't see the whole picture yet, simply because you're not deeply involved, but you do see separate parts of this global project being created by corporations and individual companies. But at some point, you'll see how it all comes together into a single digital identity. And then a lot of questions arise: who will actually own it, who will control it, and so on. So let's gradually come back to this significant trend in our meeting. What does it truly mean? I'll try to explain our global approach, our perspective on this significant trend, how we're actively participating in it, and what we've already successfully accomplished using simple and clear language. Because a great deal has already been done. And now try to look at the entire ecosystem from a slightly different and perhaps more comprehensive angle. There was a distinct stage when we were primarily a venture fund talking about various different products, innovative technologies, and other diverse market segments about portfolio growth, overall profitability, and the classic venture capital approach. That was indeed very important. It gave us a truly solid and foundational basis. But let's look at what all these intricate puzzle pieces are ultimately coming together to form. Probably in everyday terms, when you say digital identity, most people immediately imagine some kind of human-like figure or representation. I mean, that's how most people genuinely think, not just my personal opinion, but also the well-researched opinion of many researchers we've worked with extensively. So what exactly is this identity made of? Obviously, it fundamentally consists of memory, intelligence, some unique style or a particular way of communicating, It manages some kind of capital, it pursues certain specific goals, and it can perform certain defined actions. So this avatar that waves at you from your smartphone or another digital device, it knows how to do things, and you explicitly allow it to do them. But that's just the basic approach, the main and fundamental things. But what is it truly made of at the technological and structural level? There are three clear and distinct segments. I'm not entirely sure if I can explain it simply enough, but obviously, it's not just an avatar on a screen or a 2- or 3-dimensional robot in the physical world, or even a robot in virtual reality when we put on our specialized glasses. It's a complex system made up of about 12 basic and essential elements that provide the most important things: legal weight, a certain degree of autonomy. That is, it can act independently without you, but always in your best interests, and it has the crucial possibility of inheritance. What exactly does that mean? It can be transferred, inherited, possessing significant legal significance, inherent autonomy, and essentially a tangible substance. That's why there are 12 elements across these three levels. First, there's the core of the identity, which includes everything related to identification. This is the ID, the identification system, the AI model, and the wallet as its means of being an economic entity, because an identity without economic presence isn't complete. Next, there's a security and access control system and identification at the level of linking to a specific person. In other words, without KYC and some form of biometrics, it isn't legally connected to you. That's what makes up its core. Second, there's the identification shell. This mostly includes the personal profile, various credentials, your achievements throughout your life, and some kind of legal significance or legal recognition. Here, we're already talking about legal recognition at the level of government agencies, corporations, and so on. So, legal recognition somewhere, we won't go into details right now. And naturally, there's the social shell. This is your social connections, your behavioral history, your rating, your memory, how you look. This is the so-called avatar and interface through which you interact with this identity, or how the identity appears. Because in the end, it doesn't really matter what you look like. You can choose any appearance or not choose one at all, because when someone is messaging on your behalf and is verified by you, everything is safe and clear, and the person you're talking to doesn't care what form you take, whether it's a human, a robot, or a cat. The other person sees the text, and that text is associated with you, and so on. So, the avatar is basically cosmetic and is part of the social shell. This is the concept we've been developing for the past 5.5 years. I think it will continue to be refined, and not just by us. But let's focus on it for now. It's fairly comprehensive. Right now, all these shells I mentioned are actively evolving. The core of the digital identity is developing. The crypto model, the AI model, identification models. The legal framework is being prepared so that these models can be applied and tested at the level of governments and companies, linking them to real people. Very soon, you'll definitely hear news about someone handing over their passport to some AI agent or something similar. That's definitely going to happen. You'll see it soon and remember where you first heard about it. Maybe it's already happening. All of this, all 12 elements, are already being created, and they're at various stages of readiness. We conducted a study in which we assessed the readiness of these areas on a 10-point scale. Obviously, we see a high level of readiness in everything related to avatars and interfaces. What does that mean? It's about humanity, recognizability, the development of generative services, which we also understand to some extent. It's about the emergence and manifestation of avatars, translation systems, generative content services, images, videos. All of that is moving in this direction. There's a very high level of development in everything related to blockchain and crypto assets. This is all connected, first of all, to the economic impact of these fields' growth. Identifiers, crypto wallets, the ability to transfer large amounts of information, liquidity theory, all of this over the past few years is probably no secret to anyone anymore. It's all tied to blockchain. It's being implemented at the level of central banks, CBDCs, and so on. There's also a high level of development in memory and data storage systems. Why is the level so high? Because there's money there, it's all usable, and funds are being invested in it. Maybe I'm speaking a bit complicatedly right now, but I have a more holistic picture in mind. Various reputation services, trust, interaction history, legal recognition, social status, legal uniqueness, all of these have a low degree of development because they require solving very serious ethical issues and essentially tying everything together on a global scale, which is always very difficult. But when at some point there's a high level of readiness in all the other elements and this global reshuffling at the political level and the formation of new centers is complete, we'll see that all the legal issues will be resolved very quickly and digital currencies, central bank currencies, CBDCs, which we've also talked about for a long time, will be implemented. And you'll see how quickly you'll all be offered to undergo biometric identification. And in some places, it won't be an offer, but a requirement. You'll have autonomous entities appearing. And all of this is highly developed. At some point, we'll notice, or some people won't even truly notice, how they've ended up in a completely new world, where a digital identity, a digital agent, or a set of such agents specifically tied to you and performing specific functions becomes just as essential for interaction and identification as a passport or a phone. And if you don't have this, or if for some reason you refuse it, you'll simply be excluded from economic, social, and other aspects of life. In general, the examples of how all this can be used are multifaceted. I think we won't go deeper into this topic in this webinar. We'll talk about it in more detail in the next webinar, and maybe it won't even be a webinar, but rather a full-fledged expert meeting. So I invite everyone to join. And the things I've just mentioned, I suggest you look at them from the perspective of the DigiU ecosystem. We've just discussed some things, the 3 levels of digital identity and their readiness on a 10-point scale. Share your opinion in the comments in the chats. Right now, you see this slide, 12 elements of digital identity and their readiness in the world. Take a screenshot of it. On the second slide, there's information about what the core consists of, the identification shell, the social shell. Save that slide too. And think about it for yourself, but personally, I'd be glad, and I think everyone would be glad, if you also write which products and technologies, in your opinion, that the DigiU ecosystem has been developing and funding through its venture fund for the past 5.5 years fit into this concept. I think attentive viewers will notice a pattern in how all this is connected, and may be surprised to discover dual-use technologies and dual-use projects. And based on this, you'll appreciate even more the effectiveness of the concept we're developing. That's my personal request. Let's do this kind of research for ourselves based on the concept I've just described, and add your thoughts about which company projects fit into the concept of digital identity development, into the core, the identification shell, the social shell, KYC systems, and so on. So please pay attention to this. Naturally, we'll be in the chats during the broadcast. Ask your questions, and I, my colleagues, and DigiU Alpha will answer them for you. It's also important to mention here that obviously the market for this particular area and its related fields is growing rapidly, and numerous innovative companies are actively developing. The expansive market that these companies will soon merge into will be measured in trillions of dollars, because it will essentially combine the artificial intelligence market, the fintech market, and the blockchain market. All of this will become increasingly autonomous and, at some point, extremely financially promising. Right now, in our considered opinion, we're seeing a significant amount of hype in this burgeoning market. And as a direct result, there's a certain degree of overheating, but in about a year or two, these 12 or 24 crucial months we're talking about, this market will undoubtedly stabilize. Because right now, if you're closely following the developments, you can clearly see new models and new services constantly coming out that create even better videos, do everything even more coolly, more effectively, more brightly, and more cheaply, and soon all of this will become familiar and routine. It won't surprise anyone anymore. It won't seem so incredibly cool. And in about a year or two, a calm but absolutely inevitable integration of all this advanced technology into everyday life will begin. This is actually one of the primary reasons why we now see the distinct possibility of this quantum leap. And let's try to dive a bit deeper into this fascinating topic now, so that you'll be even more thoroughly prepared for the next webinar. Because I always genuinely enjoy speaking to an audience that comes with a certain level of foundational knowledge and careful preparation. Thanks to that, the conversation is more precise, and there's no need to stop at terms everyone already understands. Let's move on to the window of opportunity. So at the very beginning, I said that the next 12 to 24 months is the crucial window of opportunity that we have right now. And let's try to look at what we're basing this important statement on. Obviously, we're relying on many years of experience, on our deep knowledge of the venture capital industry, and on understanding precisely where the key market players are investing at this very moment. If they're investing there, if money is consistently flowing in that direction, it means something significant will be created there in the near future. And if something is going to be created there soon, then this window of opportunity will either be partially closed or closed altogether by then. That's why a profound knowledge of the industry and technological trends is something we have thanks to a well-structured company, where the tech side works closely and collaboratively with the venture side, sharing invaluable knowledge and essential resources. One side understands technological trends. The other side understands the economic viability of those trends. Because in theory, it's relatively easy to predict a trend, but if money doesn't follow that trend, it means it won't be in high demand in 5 years, maybe only in 15. Market readiness and trends are not always closely related concepts because there are many intricate factors, and we could talk about this for a very long time. So, our comprehensive knowledge of the industry, technology, and the venture sphere allows us to talk about this upcoming window of opportunity over the next 12 to 24 months. What else is happening, and what do I suggest you think about? There's a kind of race for leadership. What does that mean? Obviously, in the technology market, LLM systems, artificial intelligence, blockchain, there are now several very large players. These include OpenAI, Grok with Elon Musk and its large structure and corresponding company Meta, Google with Gemini, and many others. All of these are major players, and they're not only competing with each other in this race, but also pushing themselves to move faster. That is, they're releasing new AI solutions every quarter, if not more often. We recently saw a new version of ChatGPT, then a new version of Grok, then Google came out with some kind of video generation solution. That's super cool. And then 2 weeks later, China overtook everyone by doing something else. This is only going to accelerate. There is this race for leadership, this competition. At some point, it will end and lead to the formation of new monopolies, which is the next risk. Accordingly, in the near future, dominant ecosystems will be established, which will be very hard to break into and which will dictate the rules. Right now, they haven't fully formed yet, so there's still a chance to slip in between them. What does that mean? By this, I mean that very quantum leap. Because in addition to this race for leadership, it's obvious there's a geopolitical story unfolding with a kind of reshuffling of the world, hotspots, politics, provocative statements from presidents, and in general, something is happening where everything is clearly changing. And all of this increases the demand for digital autonomy, creating an opportunity to carve out a place in this digital autonomy. Obviously, everyone notices the risks that the main large artificial intelligence models are, for some reason, concentrated in the hands of one or two players. You can name several of the biggest players, all of whom are based in the United States and are startups from that country. What does this create for the rest of the world? It creates either dependency or the risk of being cut off from these systems at some point. That's why we see that such services in different countries are only accessible through VPNs. It's not recommended to use such services in certain government agencies. It's not recommended to upload valuable or personal information, and so on. These are all risks and dependencies that are clearly going to happen. And if everything is concentrated in a single set of hands, then naturally someone will want to impose their will. Does everyone else need that? No. Which means that all countries want to be sovereign in this matter. And we can offer an alternative for the BRICS countries, for the CIS market, Africa, Latin America, India, and other countries, starting from the approach and ending with specific technological solutions. And this process started for us back in 2021 or 2022, the process of interaction at various governmental levels. This includes the topic of CBDC, which we've raised. You've seen it in webinars, and I've visited various central banks and presented this story. This process is gradually moving forward for us. The venture fund allows us to build communication in a very proper way and, in a sense, at a different level of interaction, and to offer technical solutions. On one hand, we clearly see the significant development and strategic importance of advanced AI solutions, while in another distinct part of the world, we observe the unfortunate absence of this. But there is a strong, inherent desire to be truly sovereign and to establish their very own robust structures. Can we genuinely offer something substantial of our own there, act as innovative creators, or perhaps consult and generously share the serious, extensive experience we have accumulated? Of course, we absolutely can. And this is precisely where the significant window of opportunity truly lies, at least for this specific region and the rapidly developing BRICS countries. I mean specifically the vast continent of Asia, the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, the populous nation of India, various African countries, and the diverse nations of Latin America. Not long ago, we had the distinct pleasure of visiting Latin America and successfully signed a comprehensive agreement with a prominent local technology park. And just a few short days ago, we had one of our initial highly productive calls, where we thoroughly discussed many of these crucial topics in considerable depth. So, in the very near future, you'll undoubtedly see further substantial development, especially in the vital area of government cooperation and with major influential corporations in the BRICS regions. That's indeed the significant window of opportunity. What else is there? Regulatory issues. This fundamentally involves creating various comprehensive legal frameworks for all of this intricate development. Here, too, it's incredibly important to diligently keep up, because right now, the main dominant players and those actively developing in this burgeoning market can act quite freely and innovatively, since there are currently no strict regulatory norms, which genuinely allows for unconventional, groundbreaking solutions and sometimes getting significantly ahead, not merely by pouring in huge amounts of financial capital, but rather by meticulously structuring things legally in the absolutely right way and making the most astute, timely decisions. So, while everything isn't strictly regulated yet, there's a remarkable chance to firmly claim your rightful place. What else is truly important to consider? Break time equals 0.5s/. It's profoundly important to note that the risk of irreversibly lagging behind major corporations is significantly growing. We are currently seeing truly huge and substantial investments being poured into the creation of advanced energy clusters, which are being specifically built and developed to foster artificial intelligence. Obviously, the construction cycle for such large-scale projects is fairly long, but certainly not excessively so. In just 2 or 3 years from now, we will undoubtedly see these critical divisions, these massive data centers, and these powerful energy clusters being fully put into operation. And then, the inevitable gap between those entities who own and control these immense capacities and other competing companies will become absolutely insurmountable. That's precisely why it's utterly crucial to keep pace and stay ahead before that pivotal moment definitively arrives. In some specific cases, it's entirely possible to collaborate effectively with them at the very early stages, but you absolutely have to keep a consistent pace because later on, it will become completely impossible to catch up. Right now, the advanced technologies themselves, to put it quite simply and straightforwardly, are still not fully structured or comprehensively regulated. There is a significant and unique opportunity to carve out a clear and distinct place for yourself if you deeply understand the market dynamics, genuinely know your inherent strengths, possess certain essential competencies, and deliver the right product to the right people at the right time. In our particular case, we possess this immense potential, and it's quite significant and substantial. So, if we manage within this critical 12 to 24-month window to deliver the right product and secure a competitive advantage in certain key areas, then you could confidently say, mission accomplished. After that crucial period, there simply won't be any available spots left for new entrants. But if we successfully claim those vital spots, we will grow exponentially along with the expanding market and end up exactly where we need to be. And at the economic level, this translates into billions and even trillions in capitalization. At the political level, it means actively working with government structures, influencing the right territories, the right market segments, all under clear legal protection and in complete safety. What's next for us as a company? The company's overarching mission will potentially be fulfilled to the absolute highest standard. And this comprehensive approach we advocate will allow us, with a clear conscience and a profound sense of accomplishment, to know that we made it in time. And that's really, really great and truly remarkable. It's a very important and critical point. But if you miss this vital window entirely, it's going to be very bad and detrimental. And if you're just a little bit late, you'll unfortunately have to play by rules you'd rather not. You'll have to compete directly with large corporations on their own turf, where you really don't stand much of a chance. You'll only be able to play by their established rules. You'll be left wondering, does my digital identity actually belong to me or not? We understand the comprehensive solutions for how to make absolutely sure the answer to that fundamental question is a resounding yes. But it all ultimately comes down to consistently keeping up. And that's exactly what we are diligently doing. So obviously, there's a kind of proven success formula that we've meticulously developed for the team and for the entire ecosystem as a whole. There are several key and essential components. The first and foremost part is infrastructure. That's everything absolutely needed for autonomous operation. Robust data centers, ample energy capacities, certain crucial things with validators, blockchain technology, and so on. In other words, these are the fundamental things that ensure development autonomy, secure data storage, and possibly a strategic presence in different regions to comply with various regulatory policies and rules. Let's move on. Infrastructure is a big section. We'll talk about it separately later. The team is obviously crucial, top professionals. Right now, our team is about 40 to 50 highly skilled professionals. We need even more, and ideally from different regions, each with their own understanding of local specifics. Because cultural code is extremely important for effective development. We compensate for this somewhat through our community, but having high-level specialists from different cultural backgrounds on our team with strong expertise in our field is very important. That's why building the team has always been a top priority, and it still is. A venture fund, as a structure that ensures a flow of financing, the right contacts, reputation, and access to the highest government bodies, is also part of success. And of course, the company's legal and financial security is about economic efficiency. This includes financial security, legal security, and economic security. You can't go anywhere without it. This is about reorganization, further scaling, moving to new funding rounds, and so on. And naturally, the product, the key product, which doesn't have to be just one. It's something that unites products under a single brand, a single approach. I won't specify here. It's a product that's clear, that provides an entry point, that ensures the first meaningful, strong contact, and has 1 million, 1.5 million, or 10 million paying users, users whose lives have been changed for the better by the product. Right now, we're bringing all this together under the Alpha brand. Very soon, I think in a few weeks, you'll get to know the MVP of this product, a basic version that will be available in a Telegram app. Later, there will be apps for Google/Android, the App Store for iPhone, then web versions, and so on. All of that is coming, but right now, it's important to understand the conceptual level. This webinar is more about the conceptual level. So, this success formula actually consists of a product that is conceptually united by the idea of digital identity. And as I suggested to you, do this exercise, mark the products that belong to the core, to the social layer, to the infrastructure layer. Professional team, a venture fund, connections, money, reputation, and legal and financial security. That's the whole success formula. And in fact, over the next 12 to 24 months, that's the window of opportunity. Here's the success formula. Here's the window of opportunity. We need to connect them, go through this window, and preferably as quickly as possible. That's what we'll be working on in the coming months. I invite you to follow along, to take part in all of this, to become users of the products, to become co-owners of the products. And most importantly, come to the next webinar to get an even more detailed understanding of how to participate and what opportunities are opening up specifically for each of you. And with that, I think that's all. Thank you for today's meeting. All the best.